Svanatli.
So we are on live now.
I think.
So, Assalamu alaikum. So, hello everyone, and welcome. My name is Zaini Ali Talib. I'm a researcher and activist from Western Sahara, now based in Canada. I have distinguished guests with me. So today we will talk about Western Sahara. Yeah, as you see in our headline, so we are talking today about in this webinar about Western Sahara, the latest updates about the tensions there and the war between the Western Sahara Army or the Polisario Front from one side and the Morocco from the other side, which of course both are the two parties in this conflict. Also, we want to talk today about the USA, the United States of America role in this conflict, and especially after the proclamation by the former President Donald Trump to recognize the supposed sovereignty of Morocco over Western Sahara. Please do share before we start now. Do share this live, and if you hear the sound is good, please tell us in the comments, and we will see now. Just please share the live, and we will share now this short video about Western Sahara, and we will be with you shortly. Or before we start, I just want to introduce, of course, our guests with us today. Join me to welcome today Salka Barka. She's a Sahrawi activist and a co-founder of Karama Sahara, based in the United States of America. Also with us today, Sid Ahmed Jouli. He's a Sahrawi activist and a co-founder also of Sahrawi advocacy campaign and he's based in the refugee camps, in the Sahrawi refugee camps in Algeria. So welcome today with us, and let's see this short video, introduction about Western Sahara.
Can you name Africa's last colony? Western Sahara has been occupied by neighboring Morocco for more than 40 years. Yet most people have never heard of the conflict. Western Sahara was a Spanish colony until 1975. But after the Spanish left, the indigenous population of Western Sahara, the Sahrawis, did not obtain independence. Instead, the Moroccan king declared that Western Sahara belonged to Morocco and invaded the country, even though the king's claim to the territory had been rejected by the International Court of Justice a few months earlier. Thousands of Sahrawi families fled the Moroccan bombs to Algeria, where they set up refugee camps in the desert. Here, the Sahrawis established an exile state, and for more than 15 years, the Sahrawi Liberation Movement, Polisario, fought the Moroccan invaders. During the war, Morocco built a wall extending more than 2,000 kilometers across the desert. With the aid of more than 100,000 soldiers and millions of landmines, the wall still separates the occupied territories from the rest of Western Sahara. In the occupied territories, the Sahrawis live under Morocco's brutal occupation, where peaceful resistance is met by violence, imprisonment and torture. Outside the occupied territories, Many Sahrawis still live in refugee camps, surviving on international food aid. In 1991, the UN Security Council managed to negotiate a ceasefire between Polisario and Morocco. One of the conditions of the ceasefire was a promised referendum on the status of Western Sahara. But now, 25 years later, the Sahrawis are still awaiting the referendum. No country in the world recognizes Morocco's occupation of Western Sahara, and the UN Security Council has repeatedly maintained the right of the Sahrawis to self-determination. Yet, the international community, and the European Union in particular, fail to act against the crimes committed by the Moroccan regime. One of the main reasons for the current deadlock is the plundering of Western Sahara's natural resources. Instead of benefiting the Sahrawi population, the Moroccan kingdom, alongside several multinational corporations, are generating massive profits from the plundering of the occupied territories. 40 years of brutal occupation is more than enough. It's about time the Sahrawi people is given the opportunity to vote on the future of their own country. Join us in demanding the European Union to stop.
So this was a short video by Africa Contact. So let's just, if there's a better way. So yeah, we want to know today about the situation on the ground in Western Sahara, and what led to the escalation and the renewed war after 30 years of the ceasefire. Also about the USA role and the United States of America role, and when our guests think Biden administration will reverse the Trump's proclamation on Western Sahara. So again, welcome in this. Please share this webinar, and if you have any questions, please drop it in the comments, and at the end we'll have your questions answered by our guests. So again, this webinar will be available here on this platform on Facebook on the page Voices of the Sahara. Also will be available on YouTube and Twitter on my personal account Zain Ali Talib. So welcome again, Sal Kabarka. Welcome again, and please, if you can tell us a little bit about Karama Sahara and why your organization, of course, this brilliant organization, the Karama Sahara, and why it was founded in the USA.
Hello, salam alaikum. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you very clearly.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much for this opportunity, so we can talk about the current situation, which is not very good. Keeping in mind the current torture of the family of Khaya and the family members as well, and also the disappearance of Hadi. The problem, or the Karama Sahara, it was founded literally just about as a retaliation or a response to proclamation of the Western Sahara as part of Morocco. We wanted to have more opportunities and more effect from inside the United States for the Sahrawis here in the the residents or citizens or who live in the United States, and also to mobilize the American public and the civil society, and to bear the truth to the American public, to the American people, about the truth of Western Sahara case. I have a few things, and I don't want to take too much of your time, just to touch base of what you have said, Zaini. The proclamation from the Trump or the quid pro for the Moroccans to normalize relations. I emphasize one thing, that to this day that the Biden administration is not really clear. In fact, they are taking time. Under one explanation of one of the, I think of the analysis of the, I believe it's the New York Times or the Bloomberg, saying that the war is not getting intensifying so fast or so hard to the point that the U.S. must interfere or must say something or must declare some action, either or. But in the same time, Americans are selling weapons to Morocco, and they're saying, we don't know yet. There is no position from the Biden administration. There is, but we're just not talking about it. They are selling weapons to Morocco as we speak. And they are supporting the Moroccans of maneuvers right inside the Morocco territory right now, as a joint military team or military group for a military training inside Morocco. So that means there is something, there is a position already been known to the American government to take with Morocco, but with a lot of almost masquerading the whole situation. The US has been always with the Moroccan side, but not to the point that to recognize the territory as, with as a part of Morocco, etc. Not to the extreme that Trump did it. But the one last point I would like to make is, we wonder the United States built on self-determination and the freedom and justice and democracy around the world, but yet they tend to choose and to select who is deserving such ethics and principles. Is the Sahrawis one of them? Maybe we are not, because 30 years of a country that respected so boldly the ceasefire, whatever they call it, ceasefire, for 30 years, and yet we don't know who broke the war. Morocco never respected it. Moroccan government has been beating the Sahrawis inside the territory, inside the occupied territory for all this time. And who is really respecting the ceasefire? The Sahrawis did, which is, I think it was too long of a time to give it so much time of a ceasefire from one side, and the rest of the world is just watching and extending the whole cause or the whole suffering of the Sahrawis. So that's what so far that's the updates, and there is no difference, no changes whatsoever. And I think I see Sidi Ahmed is probably lost connection. Back to you, Mr. Zaini. Sorry.
Yes,
Here you are.
is still with us. Yeah, so we'll get back to you, Salka, with more details on this regard. So, Sid Ahmed, welcome again. Sid Ahmed, what's the situation now in Western Sahara, and what sparked the tensions in November 13?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me very well?
Yes,
very well.
Okay, thank you, Zaini, for this invitation. Regarding your question, what led to this escalation on November 13th? So for those who are not familiar with the situation in Western Sahara, there has been a ceasefire agreement between Polisario Front and Kingdom of Morocco since 1991. And as a result of this ceasefire agreement, UN supposedly to organize a referendum for the Sahrawi people to decide their fate. And the Sahrawis have gave too much time for the international community and the United Nations to organize this referendum, and they adopted for a long time the peaceful struggle and gave too much time for the peaceful solutions carry on. But unfortunately, Morocco kept using this time oppressing the Sahrawis inside the occupied territories, and and also plundering the Sahrawi natural resources in the occupied territories and consolidating the occupation in Western Sahara by inviting foreign companies to invest inside the occupied territories, and also consolidating their army in Western Sahara, and consolidating the wall which is separating the Western Sahara, dividing the Western Sahara in two parts by millions of landmines. So due to the in Western Sahara and precisely in Guerguerat region, and they blocked the crossing between Western Sahara occupied territories and Mauritania, which used to be used by Morocco to plunder and export Sahrawi natural resources to other African countries. And they have been protesting peacefully in this buffer zone. And by the way, the Guerguerat crossing was not among 5 crossing were agreed upon between the two parties, Polisario Front and Morocco, in 1991. But instead, this new breach was created by Morocco in early 2000 to export illegally the Western Sahara natural resources to other African countries. And this peaceful protests provoked apparently the Moroccan occupation by carrying out a military operation against peaceful civilians who were protesting peacefully in front of the MINURSO, the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Western Sahara. And they carried out a military operation on November 13th, which led to break the ceasefire agreement and led Western Sahara to plunge in the war again. And since November 13th, many Sahrawis, and especially here in Sahrawi refugee camps, joined military schools and military training in order to go to the front to join the Sahrawi army, combating the Moroccan occupation forces in Western Sahara. And this led to thousands of Sahrawi youth to join the army as a result of their long frustration, which led to this escalation. And now we are entering the 4 months of this war between Polisario Front, the Sahrawi army, and the Moroccan forces, and until now, the Moroccan media and the Moroccan authorities still deny that actually the war is going on in Western Sahara, because they are afraid to expose this escalation to foreign investors and foreign companies, and this will weaken the Moroccan economy, and also will have many economical consequences on the Moroccan economy. So Yeah, basically, this is briefly. This is what's going on in Western Sahara since
No.
November 13th.
Okay, thank you very much, Sid Ahmed, for these insights. As you said, as Sid Ahmed said, it's very clearly that the Moroccans, those who attacked and broke the ceasefire between the Polisario and the Moroccan, they attacked the civilians who are protesting, the Sahrawi civilians who are protesting on the Gergerat area in their land. So they broke the ceasefire. That illegal breach in Gergerat was like used by the Moroccans to export the goods or the resources plundered from Western Sahara, but also drugs and like the cannabis produced by Morocco, which Morocco is the first drug producer of this hashish in the world, or cannabis. So also, as Sid Ahmed said, it was clear that there is some kind of frustration in the camps or in the Western Sahara among the Western Sahara people, and especially the youth who saw that there is a betrayal from the United Nations, and they didn't keep the promises given to the Sahrawis for that referendum in 1991. Salka Barka, based on what did Trump issue his proclamation to recognize the sovereignty, the supposed sovereignty over of Morocco over Western Sahara, and what legitimacy has this proclamation?
Although your sound or your voice is static, but I think I understood the question. I think sincerely the proclamation, it's like testing the water to see what's the response of the international community and what's the response of the Sahrawis and also the Moroccans. Luckily that and this is one of the reasons that the Sahrawis all over the world, and also human rights organizations and communities and the world, that the majority said no, this is not right, you cannot do that, we must support the UN plan of resolving the situation peacefully, etc. I'll tell you, I learned a statement from a Sahrawi refugee kid that was born in the refugee camps. She stated, and I believe, I don't recall her name, but I remember she made a statement saying, what peace, what ceasefire are you talking about? What is the definition of ceasefire when the world is saying, we have to go back to the ceasefire, etc.? The ceasefire never took place in the Western Sahara as a whole. People under the occupation, it was against, I think there's a havoc on your Facebook and things like that. So you might have a lot of communication problems. In any case, the war was always been on the Western Sahara, on the Sahrawis under the occupation, and also in the refugee camps where you have displaced people in refugee camps for a few decades. When you say a ceasefire, means that you have to respect the rules and the stopping of the fight for a certain time. The truce, every vocabulary can give it a different definition of the Moroccans. The Moroccans continue to violate it for so many times. Every month there is more than 5, 6, 7 in front of the MINURSO. The MINURSO itself was a part of another occupation of the Western Sahara force. It became like them and the Moroccans are exactly on one page, in one side. So when you have these things, and then you tell the people, maybe we're going to have a peace talks and all this, I think a peace, if it did not come in 30 years, it will not come, ever. And we don't want to If we're going to go back to the same resolution, like people waiting in refugee camps behind the wall and the other ones been beaten every day. Are we watching what's happening in Laayoune? For people to ask, for Americans to wait, what's going to happen? America, they're not going to do anything unless two things will happen. One of them is if the war really involves the whole region and everything goes to chaos, and the Sahrawis will defend themselves by going all the way to the Moroccan territory, and that's what is the war. Then the Americans, the interest will be completely intact. It will be in a problem. And that's when the Americans will say, no, wait a minute, let's see what's happening here. They're watching who's going to win. America, sadly, they are a government, mostly Democrat or Republican alike. They stand by the strongest. They stand by someone who does not surrender, and they stand by people with interest. We have more interest for the United States as a mutual friend or a mutual neighbors across the Atlantic rather than the Moroccans. The Moroccan government, it's been for the past 43 years lying every day, telling Americans completely different information, including, oh, we're fighting the ISIS, the Sahel ISIS, all this. They are the one who created them with the support of France. There is nothing strange about that. And sadly, Americans know a lot of these, but they want to see who is going to maintain the region, who is capable to control the region, so we can probably negotiate with them a new talk or a possible recognize the Western Sahara is a lost colony in Africa, and it should contain or should have the independence or the self-determination like an American constitution stand for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Serka Barka, for these powerful insights. As Serka Barka said, it's like it was like a one-sided peace. There wasn't like a kind of ceasefire, because there was aggression and attacks and violation of human rights in a daily basis in the occupied territories of Western Sahara. Also, the refugees, they are those who suffer. In the meanwhile, United States is always like just, and these superpowers, they are just following their interests, unfortunately, against the international law. And also, France is back in Morocco in the Security Council, which is like a real and a big obstacle for this conflict and to resolve resolve the Western Sahara conflict. As Serka Barka mentioned, this Trump proclamation has no legitimacy. Is in the United States, the one who makes the law is the Congress, not the president. And when president issues a proclamation like this, it does mean that it's only like a symbolic proclamation that has no effect and no impact on the ground. We will get into more also details on with Serka. Now, Sid Ahmed Julie. So how serious is the escalation now in the ground in Western Sahara and the war there between the Sahrawi army and the Moroccan occupying forces? And isn't it just better for the Sahrawis there, as some people may think or may say, isn't just better to stay there in the camps waiting for that promised solution to get the Sahrawis their rights for freedom and independence? Isn't just better for them to stay another maybe more decades or even centuries waiting for that promised solution?
Yeah, definitely not. So especially for the youth who were born and raised in refugee camps, and they are watching their counterparts in other countries enjoying their life and have a peaceful life in their own countries and have employment and so on. So this is not the case here in Sahrawi refugee camps. So the generation who was born and raised here in these harsh conditions has nothing to lose. So they have nothing to lose actually, and I haven't seen actually this momentum of unification and enthusiasm among the Sahrawi youth for a long time. So, and since November 13th, the atmosphere of solidarity among the Sahrawis, and also the spirit of victory among the Sahrawi youth, that they have nothing to lose and want to liberate their homeland, because they have suffered long enough and they have waited for a long time, and they gave opportunities to the international community to solve. Unfortunately, this international community and have turned a blind eye to their suffering and to their frustration, and this is why the majority of the Sahrawi youth now supporting the war in Western Sahara, and they have the conviction that the only way out to the conflict of Western Sahara is through armed struggle. And regarding the war reality, the Polisario Front is issuing every day about the update on the front, and it's the Moroccan side who is claiming that there is no war going on, and all this about is lies, and because they want to keep plundering the Western Sahara natural resources, and they want to keep the world have no clue about what's going on in Western Sahara. And unfortunately, now all the international, the community and the world have blocker of the peaceful settlement is the Morocco, because Morocco has been violating the ceasefire agreement, and also didn't show any interest to engage in negotiations with the Sahrawis, with the Polisario Front, despite many concessions have been made by the Sahrawis in order to save the Moroccan and the Sahrawi blood. But this regime in Morocco only want to keep the Sahrawis prisoners in their homeland, in the occupied territories, and continue the suffering of thousands of Sahrawi refugees in the middle of the desert in Algeria. And this is not sustaining situation. So for sure, this is not sustaining situation, and the Sahrawis have nothing to lose, and they will get their homeland back.
Okay, thank you, Sid Ahmed, for these views. So so it was very clear, unfortunately, that it's the Moroccan stubborn. It led to this situation. We engaged, the Sahrawis has engaged clearly in a good faith in this dialogues and in this ceasefire, and agreed on that promised referendum. But unfortunately, the international community didn't took that seriously, which led to this escalation, because the Sahrawis are very determined, more than ever, to take their independence and their right to freedom and independence, no matter what. They shown to the international community that they really peaceful people, and they prefer and they prioritize the peaceful solution. But it's clear that the armed struggle will be the only solution left for them now, and they will take their arm back to get their rights, and even to show or to make the international community to act more seriously, and to know that this escalation can lead to more instability in the region. Serka Barka, so when if you think that do you think that Biden administration will reverse Trump's decision or Trump's proclamation on Western Sahara, and when will be that, and what signs do you think or you see that Biden is going towards this reverse of this proclamation?
I hope that I know the answer, and I hope I know the results within, even if it's going to take a couple of more months. It's very difficult to say exactly what side or what direction that Mr. Biden might be going to. Keep in mind that there are a few facts that may support our cause as Sahrawis. That the region, it will go into a chaos. It will be an absolutely uncontrollable war if nothing is taken, if nothing is done, or if no one is paying attention to the real roots of cause of the Western Sahara or the Sahrawi issues. But there is a glimpse of hope, and I think it is the main thing that will make the whole region more stable and more modern and better than before, is the Moroccan people themselves. They're a huge number that I have never seen before, and that's what one of the reasons that made us at Karama Sahara accept some members with us from human rights activists from Morocco. There is a huge movement in Morocco itself. They are abroad, and there is human rights speaking from literally every corner of the world about a very similar situation in Morocco itself. And I think it's the one corner that's never been colonized by, during the Ottoman Empire. Was the Marrakesh, the little corner that survived that time. And so is during the spring, the Arab Spring, whatever they call it, or the Gdaymizik Spring, that Morocco did not get affected either. So they were under a lot of control, but now it seems to be the contrary. It's becoming like more loosened and more hopeful for the Moroccan people themselves to be free like everyone else. So I want to say that one of my hope is that the Biden fulfill his promise in the election, that for us Sahrawi Americans who voted for him, to fulfill that promise, that he will continue supporting human rights around the world, and he will stand by the international law, and that he will not take a bully like Trump before or anyone else against any human beings in the past. We did see, however, a promise that he have given regarding Khashoggi, a murder. It literally flipped a little bit, and we were a little bit disappointed because he was promising during the campaign he will go after the murders, which is the Saudi, the crown prince, etc. But it seems that something have happened during that process. So instead of making it clear that the United States and the Biden administration that will stand by their principles that they campaigned for the international respect for human rights, they did not when it comes to Khashoggi. Rather, they just used some of, they forbid some people involved to get a U.S. visa. That's not good enough. That's not the promise that the Biden campaign and Biden-Harris campaign gave during the 2 years of notorious campaign. They did not say that. They said they will stand by the human rights. They will stand by freedom and justice everywhere. They have not done that as of yet. But we have to keep in mind that the United States right now is under quite a lot of the Trump impact. You can see the murders of few Asian Americans. They were killed in Atlanta, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And there are many, side effects of the Trump 4 years of hate. So we, as human rights defenders and as a human being, civil society, we as Sahrawis and Americans and friends of justice and freedom for every human being, we have to campaign. We have to continue. We have to do our part. We cannot just wait for the Biden to decide. We must express the dire situation for Mr. Biden and Harris to take a decision for the self-determination. We just want the American to exercise what they have been preaching around the world to exercise in the Western Sahara, the last colony in Africa, in the world, in fact, if I may say. So I really hope, but we have to do more work. We have to expose the American, to expose the human rights abuse inside the territory, inside the Western Sahara. And I hope also the Moroccan human rights activists and human rights defenders and people who believe in freedom and justice to speak up, to campaign for a better North Africa, for a better region, for a better life for the Sahrawis under the occupation. And there is another thing, just a reminder to people who are listening. For the record, Morocco is the one who refused more than anyone refused to agree to the special envoy, the special representative. They are the one who kept over and over refusing things for the politics that they have is to extend the wait, to extend the time. In the same time, the plunder of the Sahrawi resources and abusing the Sahrawis under the occupation, beating and psychological and physical abuse and sexual abuse that they've been doing for the Sahrawis all these years, not because they are waiting for the United Nations or so, but rather they know if they keep doing this one, they can keep stealing and plundering everything that from the Western Sahara. No one will speak and no one will say anything. Another dilemma that I've been trying to explain to a lot of people, that any organization or any country that is involved in the Western Sahara, they have to know that they must know the truth. They must know. There are some companies, McDonald's, one of them is the American company, that they think that they can bring jobs to the Sahrawis in the occupied territory. McDonald's have no Sahrawis working in it. It's settlers. There is a difference between Sahrawis and the Moroccan settlers. There is two identities. One is stripped of their rights of dignity and life, to live in freedom and to live in peace. And the other one just come in there for a free tax and also to take something is not theirs. There is a difference. So they have to understand, if you think of having a business in the Western Sahara, think about those. They're going to be punished. They've been beaten. They've been abused every day. They're Sahrawis. You are not bringing the business to the Sahrawis. You're bringing the business to prolong the occupation of Western Sahara with your financial assistance to the Moroccan occupation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Salka, for these insights. So as you see here in these comments from our brother from Algeria, Belqas Nassim, he said that the latest decision of the African Peace and Security Council will pose a huge problem for Morocco. Most likely, the scenario is like the Morocco withdrawal from the African Union. So yeah, there was like a very good like and powerful decision from the African Peace and Security Council that really clarified and confirmed the show more strong support from the African Union and Africa to the African last colony, which is Western Sahara, and hopefully this decision will be implemented in the ground. As you all know, that the United States or it's Trump, this former President Trump proclamation, it was kind of a deal with like to normalize the ties with Israel, and in the exchange of the recognition of the United States to the occupation of Western Sahara. It has no legitimacy, and it has clearly more impact and more negative impact on the interest of United States itself, because we know that in United States it's like a state or it's like a country that has the values, the principal values, and it's based on those values like self-determination that the United States gets its independence. And they have always, even in their interest, their economic interest, their political interest, in to follow the international legality and putting pressure sometimes on their on, for example, Russia or China, using self-determination, for example, in Ukraine or Kosovo or any other country. They always has pressured those countries to follow and abide the international legality and respect the self-determination of the people. So now, how the United States itself fail and like go against its principal values and this international community. And so this was very clear that it's against the United States itself, and it cannot continue this proclamation. Also, there is that sign of the Biden administration that they will reverse this this proclamation. That we know that the State Department in the USA has announced or has that press conference couple weeks ago, saying that that the United States, in this regard, in the regard of Western Sahara, is supporting is supporting the United Nations, is supporting the United Nations in this regard, and all the respecting the international legality and the resolution, the resolution from either the General Assembly or the Security Council in regards to Western Sahara, which has always have been in favor of the Western Sahara, and recognizing that there is an occupation. The Moroccan is occupying Western Sahara. So there is some connection issues with my guests, but hopefully they will correct it, because you know that Sid Ahmed, for example, is from the refugee camps in Algeria, where the connection is not very stable, but he's with us now. So Sid Ahmed, so what do you think is the solution now? Like, what do you think the solution will be for this conflict? And do you think that like the resuming the war is the key to pressure Morocco to engage in a serious negotiations, and also to put some pressure on the UN, like to put it on the spot to find like a solution for this conflict, and to provide the Sahrawis their right to self-determination and independence? And also, if you can talk a little bit about MINURSO too, the United Nations mission for what to organize the referendum in Western Sahara, it has really, if it was for you effective or not. Sid Ahmed, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me very well now?
Yeah, I hear you very well. So did you have my question, or shall I repeat my question?
Yes, I heard your question. Sorry,
Okay.
regarding the solution in Western Sahara, the solution of the conflict in Western Sahara actually is very simple. So it's just giving the Sahrawi people just one day to vote in legitimate referendum, and this is the solution what was proposed by the United Nations for a long time ago, and this, unfortunately, the solution was proposed by the United Nations General Assembly in the 60s, before interrupted by the Moroccan invasion in the 70s. So, but unfortunately, I don't see these solutions. This solution is possible with the current regime in Morocco. So, regarding the question that you have read about the African Peace and Security Council. So we have heard from the Moroccan side, the Moroccan the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Morocco, responding to this strong statement from the African Union, calling on Morocco and Sahrawi Republic to engage in negotiations, and also calling calling Morocco to engage with the African Union and the African Union settlement and the African Union special envoy for Western Sahara. And the response from the minister was actually very funny, because he said that this is the issue of the United Nations, so the Western Sahara conflict should be resolved within the United Nations mechanism. And when it's come to the United Nations, so they are saying this is not the issue between Morocco and Polisario, so we need to negotiate with Algeria. So actually they are playing and wasting time and trying to gain time and to get everyone forgot about this conflict, and nobody will care about the Sahrawi refugees and about the fate of the Sahrawi people. And this shortly to answer your question, Zaini, it's simple, just 1 day of democracy for the Sahrawi people to decide their fate and to choose between if they want to be independent or if they want to be integrated with any country. But unfortunately, I don't see this solution possible with the current regime in Morocco.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the second part of the question about MINURSO, MINURSO actually it's has a lot of contradictions, because MINURSO is a United Nations mission for referendum in Western Sahara, and MINURSO has been operating in Western Sahara for 3 decades without any result, without organizing a referendum, without monitoring the human rights situation in Western Sahara, and they kept get funding every year from the United Nations and the international community for nothing actually. And the funding that they get is triple of the funding that 200,000 refugees get annually. So there are a lot of contradictions and irony regarding the work of MINURSO, and this situation is happening only in Sahara. Other peacekeeping missions in the world, they have the mandate to monitor the human rights situation, and they have giving a lot of time as MINURSO was giving by the Sahrawis.
Okay, thank you very much, Sid Ahmed, for these insights. Salka, Barka, as like a final question for you, what's your message for the international community and solidarity? Do you have any, and also if you have anything like you want to mention in general?
I think first of all, I really thank you, and I'm sorry about the I lost connection for a moment, I think, from specific traffic. But the only thing that we can do as a civil society to maintain a campaign for the rights of existence for the Sahrawis, and also to bring the truth of what is the Moroccan occupation is doing really in Western Sahara, and also to their own people. And what's the current situation right now in the Western Sahara? We must continue bringing, to continue to bring the lights to these regions, and also to the refugee camps. There is nothing better than to have the region stabilized, but it will never happen unless if there is a solution, a resolution for the Sahrawi people, benefit the Sahrawi people for self-determination and existence as well, like every other country. So I think the Biden administration and also the world or the international community must know and must find the reality that has been hidden or purposely, changed by the Moroccan lobbyist or the Moroccan government itself. We have to explore or to expose the reality, the truth to the world about what's happening in the Western Sahara, and also to support the efforts of the international community and to bring those to justice. And they have to understand whoever is part of committing any crime as we speak against the Sahrawis, against the families such as Khaya family, they have to understand and they have to remember that as long as it takes, we will bring you to justice. We will bring you to justice regardless of how long. And you have to know, we know every one of you guys. We know everyone who commit crimes of the sexual abuse of the Sahrawis in jails, in the victims of the prisons, inside prisons. We know every detail about what they do to the Sahrawis inside the occupied territory, and we are aware of names, and we are aware of so many detailed information. If you continue to do that, you will be brought to justice. And you will not find the Kingdom of Morocco, you will not find the government to protect you or to defend you. They will throw you under the bus. So my advice to those who are in the Western Sahara, to think again. It's not worth it to be part of those who are dragged every time, every war that end up with dragging people to The Hague, to the courts of international justice. It's not worth it. You have the power to refuse orders that are not in our culture, they are not in the Islamic culture, they are not in a human culture. So you should never use, like, I'll give you an example, just to remind those that we are following every details. using human feces and throwing it on people, on protesters, on families. That's the lowest and the most disgusting system that the Moroccan government and the occupying forces have got to do in the Western Sahara. It's despicable. It's absolutely the lowest of the crimes against humanity. So don't be part of it. Don't do it. Don't be part of crimes. We know that there are many Moroccans who may support the Sahrawis to be independent. It is better for you. It is better to have an independent territory, an independent country, your neighbor, rather than to be enslaved forever. There is nothing better to be free, to pray for God or to pray for yourself than to be all the time bowing for someone who does not care about who you are, if you're hungry, if you're dead, which is the King of Morocco. So that's my advice to you. That's my call to the international communities, that we must expose the crimes of the Moroccan occupation in the Western Sahara, and we must end the torture and the blockade against Sultana Khaya and her family and everyone in Bujador occupied territory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarka. Sid Ahmed, same thing, like your final question to you is if you have any messages to international community, to solidarity with the Western Sahara. Also, if you can, as some of our listeners in the comments, they posed a question about the court in New Zealand, and that in the court we know that Western Sahara or the Sahrawi Republic was following legally those who are involved in the plundering of resources in Western Sahara. So if you have any views or about that, about what happened there in New Zealand and what was the decision of that court, I think that they mentioned clearly that Western Sahara and Morocco are two distinct countries or the territories, and Western Sahara is really distinct and different country. Yeah, go ahead, Sid Ahmed.
Yeah, thank you, Zaini. So my message to the world is, as you mentioned, more solidarity with the Sahrawi people, and especially from the oppressed people around the world. So the occupiers and the oppressors are joining hands. Morocco and Israel are both oppressing the Sahrawis and the Palestinians, and the Sahrawis and the Palestinians should join hands as well and should learn from each other. And we have the same struggle, and we have many similarities that Sahrawis and the Palestinians should be aware of. And also my message to the Moroccan people is this is not your war. So you are not the one who is benefiting from the occupation. Only the king and the elite around him are benefiting from the occupation of Western Sahara. And you are losing your sons, and you are losing to making peace with the Sahrawis, because it's our fate as Sahrawis and Moroccans to live as neighbors, not as enemies. Yeah, regarding your question about the court in New Zealand, I think the court mentioned clearly that the illegal plundering that the New Zealand government is taking part in is damaging the image of New Zealand, and I think Polisario Front and the Sahrawi Republic will take the case to the court again to get a clear decision from New Zealand and the court in New Zealand, as they get a clear verdict from the European Court of Justice stating that the Sahrawi, the Western Sahara and Morocco are distinct and separate territories. So, but the positive news is that the biggest movement in New Zealand, the workers' union, are supporting the Sahrawi struggle and urging the government to stop the importing the illegal phosphate from Western Sahara. And I think this is very important from New Zealand, and we think we are depending on the people of New Zealand to press on their government to stop importing our natural resources from Western Sahara. Yeah, and thank you again for this invitation and this webinar, and I really appreciate and enjoy sharing my view, and also listening to the comments and Salke and your views as well. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Sid Ahmed and Salka. So it was very clear, yeah, that the will of the people of Western Sahara will prevail at the end, and the Sahrawis will take their independence and their right to freedom and self-determination and independence. Of course, it has been like in history in many other countries, including Algeria, for example, when the colonialism has stayed for more than a century, but at the end, the will of the people will prevail. Thank you very much for our guests.
Thank you.
Join me.
Thank you very much.
Salka Barka from the United States and Sid Ahmed Julie from the Sahrawi refugee camps. Thank you very much to you, our listeners.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll meet again in another webinar. It was very insightful and very informative webinar with our guests. Thank you again, and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.